Blessings and peace, beloved. Thank you for joining us once again for our Great Controversy Devotional series, where we are using the book Christ Triumphant that deals with the issues pertaining to this great struggle between Christ and Satan. The devotional thought for today, July the 6th, is entitled Christ's Mission Fulfilled Only Through Suffering. And the scripture reading is Matthew chapters 4 and verse 6. If thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down, for it is written, He shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. The second temptation was on the point of presumption. Satan now supposes that he has met Jesus on his own ground of using scripture. So what Satan wants to do to overcome us in our lives is to use scripture against us, is to cause us to have a faulty understanding of scripture, because he knows that when we have a faulty understanding of what scripture is actually saying, that we would presumptuously go along or go ahead in our lives with our misconception of what the truth is, and thus be led out of the straight and narrow way from the plain utterances of scripture. This is what the devil does. So the second temptation was on the point of presumption. Satan now supposes that he has met Jesus on his own ground. The wily for himself presents words that proceeded from the mouth of God. He makes it evident that he is acquainted with the scriptures. But when he quoted the promise, He shall give his angels charge over thee, he omitted the words, to keep thee in all thy ways. That is, in all the ways of God's choosing. And this is what we must understand. We must understand the ways of God. We must understand the principle of God, because God does not deviate from his principle. And so we are only going to be kept if we are walking in God's way. Jesus refused to go outside the path of obedience. He would not force providence to come to his rescue and thus fail of giving us an example of trust and submission, so we can presumptuously sin against God, invoking his providence to rescue us from our unnecessary deviations, and then it would harden us in a presumptuous course. Beloved, we must be careful that we are walking in God's way. We can only live a godly life by using God's principles. Never did he work a miracle in his own behalf. His wonderful works were all for the good of others. Jesus declared to Satan, "It is written again, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God." God will preserve all who walk in the path of obedience, but to depart from it is to venture on Satan's ground. There we are sure to fall, beloved. If Christ requires you to do something that causes you to sacrifice, and the sacrifice may be great, because it is a sacrifice that God requires you to make, it is easier, it is better, it is more simple to make that sacrifice than to go on in your own way, in your own path. So if you have something and you realize that to maintain it, you have to use unholy principles to keep it, it's best that you give it up, because you are safer in following God's path of obedience. So do not shrink from the sacrifice, do not shrink from the challenge, beloved. So if in order to get something you have to resort to unholy and unsavory means, it means then that you don't need that thing. Because when you get that thing, and you use the unholy or unsavory means to get it, you are now surrendering principle to get it, and therefore you will have to keep surrendering principle to keep it. So if it's a sacrifice that needs to be made in order to maintain Christ's principles, it is always going to be easier to make that sacrifice. Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. God will preserve all who walk in the path of obedience, but to depart from it is to venture on Satan's ground. There we are sure to fall. Jesus was victor in the second temptation, and now Satan manifests himself in his true character, claiming to be the God of this world. Placing Jesus upon a high mountain, Satan caused the kingdoms of the world in all their glory to pass in panoramic view before him. The eyes of Jesus, so lately greeted by gloom and desolation, now gazed upon a scene of unsurpassed loveliness and prosperity. Then the tempter's voice was heard. All this power will I give thee, and the glory of them, for that is delivered unto me, and to whomsoever I will give it. If thou therefore wilt worship me, all shall be thine. Christ's mission could be fulfilled only through suffering. Before him was a life of sorrow, hardship, and conflict, and an ignominious death. But now Christ might deliver himself from the dreadful future by acknowledging the supremacy of Satan. But to do this was to yield the victory in the great controversy. To do that would have been a lie, because Satan cannot be or never will be more supreme than Christ, or supreme compared to Christ. He will never be. Christ declared to the tempter, and the reason is, beloved, is a very simple reason. The Creator can never be subject to its creation. Get thee behind me, Satan, for it is written, thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. Christ's divinity flashed through suffering humanity. Satan had no power to resist the command to depart. Humiliated and enraged, he was forced to withdraw from the presence of the world's Redeemer. And what caused him to beat a steady retreat from the presence of Christ? Christ quoted Scripture. Scripture is your defense today in your battle against sin, in your battle against Satan, in your battle against self, beloved. Scripture is your defense, for it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God, because that word is life, and that word is power. You cannot gain success in this Christian warfare unless you're connected to the source of power. Unless you're connected to Christ, you will be weak, you will be helpless, and you will be hopeless. But when you plug into Christ through his word, there is when you receive power. Overcoming power. Blessings and peace.
Thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to like and share this video. Also remember to subscribe and smash that notification bell so you don't miss out on any upcoming video. Also, you can support us at wordoflife.network/donate, or you can email us for any information on messengersofthecovenant@gmail.com. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. God bless you. Blessings and peace.